What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And in this video, I want to talk about Anthem. I want to talk about its reviews. I want to talk about the time I spent with the game. And I want to talk about what all of this means for both EA and Bioware as a company, because it doesn't look good. But look, before we get started here, I want to talk about something super important. If you enjoy Anthem, nothing I say should take that away from you. It doesn't matter if the internet hates your favorite game. It doesn't matter if I hate your favorite game. It literally doesn't matter. Here's what matters: that you are enjoying that game. If you purchased that game and you are happy with it, don't let anything I say or Jim Sterling or anybody else says about this game take away that enjoyment. You enjoy your game. But I hope that you're open to listening to the criticism as to why other people don't enjoy that game. I personally really enjoy Magic the Gathering. The mass majority of my audience does not. They don't understand what I see in that game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change me from loving it. And if you love Anthem, you should continue to love Anthem. But as for what the industry seems to think of Anthem, it's currently setting at a 60 over there on Metacritic, which is a very below average score for a AAA video game. And the user score is not much better. You're looking at a 4.3, so users don't like it much either. And I think it's important to compare this game to the previous Bioware game, Mass Effect Andromeda, which was effectively so bad that it was kind of a meme about how bad of a state it launched in. And that did a lot better with a meta score of 72 and even a better user score at 4.9. And you remember everybody, including Francis, made fun of that game. And when I read those reviews, I tend to agree with most of those reviews. The good stuff is there. There's a lot of fun stuff there. The looting system at the high end is really interesting. And the way you can mix and match your armor and your abilities is really interesting. There's some interesting stuff there. When it comes to the actual gameplay itself, when it comes to the flying around and the fast-paced combat and the setups that you have for your javelins, that is good stuff. I'm not going to lie. But the problems quickly outweigh the good stuff, and you get aware of that after you played the game for about 5 or 10 hours. It's a multiplayer game without any chat, but I understand Bioware is afraid of toxicity. But then there's no ping system. You can't ping somewhere on the map. You can't ping a specific place or a specific monster or a specific item. And then on top of that, you literally cannot set a waypoint on the map. Not one that you can share with anybody else. I understand why you might not be able to do that, but why not one to set for myself? I would like to be able to set a waypoint for myself on the map. This is all stuff that seems like game development 101. And just like any other live service game, you're meant to do the same thing over and over again. At the end game, you're supposed to do the same 3 raids or whatever they're calling them in this game over and over again to get the same loot. The problem is those raids are not particularly interesting. They're not particularly unique. They're not something that you haven't already done before. In fact, 2 of them have been recycled content from earlier through the story of the game. And as you play through the story of the game, you begin to realize how repetitive the content actually is, because all you end up doing throughout the story of the game is you fly to somewhere, which takes a few minutes to fly there. Then you get there and you either clear the area, or you protect something in the area, or you do like a hot and cold finding mission. And all of that is the worst kind of game design. None of that stuff is interesting. Doing that even once in the storyline of a game is boring. Doing it over and over and over again is frustrating and absurd. The now notorious temple solving quest, where you have to go to the 4 temples and get the insignias from the 4 dead previous guardians. That was a perfect example of where it's missing content. Because once you finally get into those temples, they're not just giant dungeons that you can do with a group. They're nothing. They're just a temple. It's just someone is dead in there. You walk into the room, you pick up the thing, and you leave the room. No dungeon, no bosses, no monsters, no puzzles, nothing. It's just nothing. It's like if you took World of Warcraft, my beloved World of Warcraft, and took the dungeons out of it and left nothing but fetch quests. That's how Anthem plays. But there are the 3 dungeons that you'll do in the end game, and they are made of the same mechanics, in which you guard an area, or you collect the things, you do the hot and cold fetch quest, you bring them to an area, you finally fight a boss, and that's it. You get the loot, and then do that and repeat it ad nauseum until you get all the loot you want. But now the good news is this is a game that is a live service, so if enough people purchase this game, then in the future you can expect them to add more dungeons and more content and more storyline and more stuff to do. That's if enough people buy the game. Unfortunately, a lot of people are reporting that Anthem's physical sales are about half of Mass Effect Andromeda's. Now, there's a lot of different reasons that could be, but the primary reason it looks like is just the game isn't selling well. Now, it's true, a lot of us are moving towards digital sales, so we would not buy a physical copy of that game. But the trend did not affect Kingdom Hearts 3, it didn't affect Resident Evil 2 Remake. Those games had very strong physical sales, a lot more strong than Anthem did. So that is most likely not the case. I think the game just isn't selling well. And I think it's also important to note here that you would not get a physical copy of the game if you were using one of the subscription services that EA offers, the EA Access or EA Access Premium. If you have one of those, you're not going to get a physical copy. So there might be a bunch of those people playing and we just don't know about it. And hopefully that's the case, because if that's the case, that would keep Anthem alive long enough to become an interesting game. But as it stands right now, the number of physical copies that EA has sold of Anthem is half that of Mass Effect Andromeda. And you guys remember what happened to that section of Bioware that made Mass Effect Andromeda. They shut them down. They closed the company. They shipped everybody else off somewhere else, or they laid them off. And keep in mind, it looks like Mass Effect Andromeda was much more successful than Anthem is going to be. And keep in mind that Mass Effect Andromeda was a financial success. It did turn a profit. Yet they fired everyone anyway. What I'm basically saying is, if Anthem doesn't hit whatever bizarre and amazing projections that EA has set for that game, they might very well start firing people at Bioware, including shutting down the company as a whole. And that's going to really suck, because you can tell a lot of love went into Anthem. And if that game had another year to create content, to put the polish on the game, it probably would have been much, much better. And even though sales for Anthem are super important and will determine whether or not Bioware is going to stick around, I still can't recommend that you play the game yet. I recommend that you wait until they put more polish on the game and they add more content. I don't think it's a game you should entirely skip, because I do believe that game will be very good one day. It's just not there yet. But EA is not the kind of company that will give them that kind of time. If this game is not initially successful, I don't know whether or not Anthem will still be around in 6 months or a year. And I don't know if Bioware will still be around. So anybody from EA, if you are listening, please give them that chance. Bioware deserves it. In fact, EA, if you are listening, you could do the right thing here, which is, pull some of those people off of the Anthem team and allow them to start a brand new project that focuses on what Bioware does best, which is create giant RPGs with a single-player story, with a wonderful narrative, with no DLC and no microtransactions and no live service BS. Let them make their God of War. Let them do it, because that's what that company deserves. And if it fails, sure, then go ahead and shit-can the entire company. And if it doesn't, then you'll have made a bunch of money, and they would have made a really good game, and you would have made a lot of players really happy. So maybe we could try that. Because the truth of the matter is, Anthem is not that much better or worse than the original Destiny when it launched, which had a lot of the same problems and a lot of the same issues that Anthem currently has. Had Anthem launched at the same time that the original Destiny launched, it would probably be massively more successful, but it's now launched into a very saturated live service market. It never stood a chance. If this game came out 3 years ago, probably. But now, in 2019, it never stood a chance. Maybe had it been innovative like Apex Legends was, maybe had it taken the formula and turned it on its head and added so much more content and so much more unique stuff and done something just purely creative for the looter shooter genre, then it probably could have stood out. Then it could have dominated. But unfortunately, it was subpar in almost every way. You're better off playing Destiny 2. You're better off playing Warframe. And then that's just the games that are already out, because you have a bunch of other looter shooters coming up. The Division 2 just had its beta, and it looks like it might be better than Anthem as well. The entire industry is further saturating that market, EA, so why don't you do us all a favor and be innovative here and go back to what EA does best. Make really good RTS games. Make really good role-playing Bioware games. Go back to making good simulation games like Dungeon Keeper and SimCity. Do that instead and prove them all wrong. Carve your chunk out of the market and make a fortune doing it. Or alternatively, you can do what I'm 98% sure you're going to do. You're going to continue to saturate this market along with everybody else, poisoning the well and poisoning gaming as a whole, and you're going to end up shutting down Bioware in the process, adding it to the pile of other great companies you've done the same thing to. And it's going to be a real shame. It'll be fun to watch your stock drop, though. Now, that's one man's opinion. I could be wrong, and I know if I am, you're going to let me know in the comments section below. While you're down there, drop a like on this video. Let the algorithm know that you enjoyed it. Hit that subscription button if you have not done so, and if you've already hit that subscription button, do me a favor, hit that notification bell so you can be one of the first people to watch a video when it goes live, because if you do that, it helps that video and this channel be more successful, and I thank you very much if you did. Guys, as always, Thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon.